Where do I even start with this? What's up, skate fan? Welcome to the next episode of D's Skates. I'm your host, David Lolliette. This episode is not peaches and cream. Well, just most of my skating content in general, I try to project a happy, sort of free experience with skating because that's what I want new skaters and people trying to get back into skating to associate with the sport. I want people to be happy when they skate. I want skating to make them happy so that it's something they can always come back to no matter how hard times get. Unfortunately, the businesses and the cultures that foster that environment do not always stick around, and it's unfortunate. I started skating when I was 2, and by the time I was 7, my mom was taking me to the local roller rink pretty often, every weekend actually. This is the early 90s. Back then, there was a large culture of people who traveled from out of town every weekend to do jam sessions, and there was a show team that I was involved in. There was speed skating, we had some roller hockey, and I tried to get involved in every bit that I possibly could because I loved skating so much. You know, every year tax season would come around and my dad would get me a new pair of Rydell's because I outgrew my skates every year back then. Long story short, I stopped going to the rink for quite a few years. I guess I kind of outgrew, or I felt like I outgrew that, or I grew into another phase of life. I was rollerblading outside and getting acquainted with Heelys when they were big. And then eventually I went off to college and I started ice skating, and I really loved ice skating, but I didn't get to do it as often as I wanted, and I never really got to, at the time, get involved with the rink culture that was prevalent with ice skating. I don't really know how I found my way back, but I did. I found my way back to the roller rink that I grew up in. And at the time, things felt so odd. I didn't know anyone anymore. Some of the kids who went there were relatives of people that I had grown up with. They knew stories of the people that I used to skate with, but there was no jam skate culture left. There were no people traveling from out of town. The community seemed like it had kind of silently died. In the time that I was gone, roller derby had come up and really started booming. So 2 different teams in the area had formed, and they were a large part of the culture when I came back. A lot of the events that people throughout the city would come to involving the rink were roller derby events, and I built a small jam skate team and taught a bunch of teenagers. We did a couple of shows at the roller derby games, and that was great because it gave me the feeling that the community might be able to come back. Skating and dance and the feeling of community that come along with them might still be there. I was working as a waiter at the time, and I worked in the public a lot, and I would talk to people about the skating rink and try to get them to come. I always heard the same story. People would say, "Oh, I remember when I was a kid and we would go to the skating rink every Friday night and just walk around," or we would go to the rink every Friday night and all the old school people would come and jam out. And so everyone in the community, everyone in the city that I spoke with about skating, they all had memories of the rink. They all had an emotional attachment to the community that the rink had fostered, but nobody was involved anymore. And I tried my hardest to get people involved. I started filming all the skating that we would do and making videos and sharing them on YouTube and Facebook, and I paid for Facebook advertisements to get the video content shared out to different people in the city. I mean, it's really a tragic story, but in the end, the rink closed down. And when it closed, it became a flea market. And I never went back inside the building because I didn't want to see it as something other than a skating rink. I didn't want to see the skate floor cluttered with sales booths. And after it closed, the local media got a hold of the story, and I mean, it was a huge talk of the town for a while. Everyone was sad and said, "Oh, it's so terrible, you know, I grew up there," and same stories that I heard before, that I grew up there and I used to go to the skating rink every weekend, and my family used to go there, and I had my birthday parties there, and how did this happen? They would say, how did this happen? There was a period where I was kind of bitter about it. You know, I felt like I got really, really involved in this, and I volunteered my time. I went to the rink and would go to a session, and instead of skating, I would go back behind the skate counter and repair the broken skates to try and make the business manageable again. I even got up early in the morning one Sunday and went to the rink and held a little class where I taught all of the employees how to clean bearings and replace pivot cups and just general skate maintenance, what needed to be done every session in order to take care of things. And just the mentality wasn't there. People weren't interested in the rink anymore, not even the people that worked there. No one seemed to care about it. And when it closed down and everyone cried that they lost a piece of the community, I was sour, and I felt like, where were you? Where was this sentiment when it was still here? When we had a chance to do something about it? Why didn't you care then? But time went on, and I was faced with the question, well, how do I continue, right? How do I continue skating? And for a while, I strapped on my inlines and I skated outside. Sometimes I would just go by myself, and every now and then I would be able to convince a friend to put their skates on and come with me. And then eventually, me and a few of the people that I knew, we would travel out of town and skate at different rinks. We were always searching for a better place to call home, I guess. And I learned a lot of lessons there, but one thing that I found, sadly, is that my rink was not alone in its state of disaster. In the last 2 years or so, I think that I've noticed a whole lot of rinks closing, and you can go to Google and search skating rink closures, and you'll find just pages of articles that discuss different rinks all over the United States that have been open for decades. And I mean decades, some of them 50, 60 years. They close because they can't afford to stay open anymore because property taxes have gotten outrageous and the cost of operation has skyrocketed, or they close because people just stop caring about them and stop taking care of them. I think that we're looking at a dying business model, and a lot of people who own skating rinks can't see that yet. They see the way that they've operated for many, many years, and that's no longer enough to keep them afloat. So they just try to continue on and hope for the best, but inevitably it's not enough and they close. I don't know what can be done about it. I've never run a skating rink before. I'm not business savvy enough in that area of the industry to say what rink owners could or could not be doing better. I'm no one to criticize. I mean, what really can be done? I think it's a legitimate question. I think it's an important question for us as skaters to ask ourselves, because skating rinks provide a pocket within a community, especially smaller communities where there's very little in the way of activity for kids. They provide a pocket of safety where families can come and meet each other. It's almost like a church, and the religion is skating. So what happens when our skating institutions die seems to be that the culture in that area also dies. People don't have the want or the desire to change up their mindset and go outside, and it is a lot of work to have to travel and induct yourself into a new community that is very far away from you. It's really difficult to keep the spirit going when the place that fostered the spirit in the first place collapses. So I don't even really know what the purpose of this video is, other than to talk to you about something that's been weighing on my mind for a long time. What do we do? What do we do about this? What do we do if the rinks continue to die across America? I know that documentaries like United Skates have touched on this topic, focused on this topic. I know that it's something, as I said, you can look up articles about easily, so people are talking about it, but I think it's just sad there's no one answer. There seems to be no direct solution for how this is fixed. But one thing that I notice in getting involved with the ice skating community is that ice skating has more money flowing within the scene. And I'm sure that some of that has to do with the social class of people who are involved in ice skating versus the social class of the people who are involved in roller skating, and also the history of both cultures are very different. But what I do notice in ice skating is that there's more money flowing through the business, and it's because they have clubs. They have figure skating clubs, hockey clubs, curling clubs. Even though curlers don't skate, they still provide revenue and use the rink just like the skaters do. I feel like in the roller rink communities, something has to change. Something has to bring in more revenue. The business model as we know it is not going to last as it is. We can have birthday parties, and we can have open session, and we can have adult night, and that's all well and good. But the activities that bring in money are individual and team building related activities that have dedicated coaches and educated people who are willing to give up their time. And it seems to me that a lot of the rinks that I have got involved with do not appreciate those people in the roller rink world like they do in the ice rink world. And I think that it's sad. I wish that I had a way to show more rink owners just how important skating coaches and team building coaches are to the overall health of the roller community. Anyway, I don't know what else to say. I'm not here to complain or even to offer an end-all be-all solution. I'm just making this video so that I can raise awareness to the topic and hopefully get more people involved in the discussion. If you grew up in a roller rink environment, or you currently enjoy a roller rink environment, and especially if you know what it's like to lose your home rink, because I know within the last few years a lot more people have joined the camp of those of us who do not have a home rink anymore. If you fall into any of those categories, even if you don't, please leave a comment in the section below this video and tell me about your experiences. Tell me what you think about this trend, this very bad trend of roller rinks across the nation just shutting down one by one. I think it's something we can't ignore. We as a skating community, we have to talk about it, especially with the economy in the current state. I think that we're gonna see a lot more of that. This trend, in my summation of it, this trend is only beginning, sadly, and I can't bring myself to not discuss it, to not say anything when I know that it's coming. So please leave a comment, like this video if you enjoy this topic. If you feel like you got some value from it, give it a thumbs up so more people will see it and we can raise more awareness of it. Encourage your friends and family to go to their local roller rink as soon as the businesses are opening back up and people feel safe. Encourage them to go back to their local roller rink and spend money there so that the culture can survive, because the kids in the community are really the ones who lose whenever skating rinks close down. Again, if you like this video, click the like button, give it a thumbs up, and make sure you are subscribed to D's Skates so that every time I release new skating content, you'll get a notification. As always, I appreciate your support, and I will see you the next time I lace up.